Good morning, good morning. Here we are. Oh, everybody's on already. Good morning. I'm really looking forward to bringing this Facebook Live to you today, all about how we release self-sabotage to step into our own power. Today, what I want to do is really look at, what are the causes of self-sabotage and why we do it. And morning. Yes, Anne-Marie. I'm Virgo. So yes, right on time. Absolutely. So we're going to look at self-sabotage today. We're going to look at, why this happens. What's the story behind it? And I'm going to share a little bit about where this started and why I kind of got a little bee in my bonnet this week about this. I know I've had a few people who have messaged me to say, they couldn't jump on the Facebook Live this morning, but they will be on later on. So for all those who are on later on, welcome to. I'll be looking forward to your comments as we go along as well. So I hope wherever you are today, the weather is good. I can just hear, I'm just going to shut this window. We've got a very, very gusty, windy day here on the Gold Coast. I'm not sure what it's like where you are, but we're in for a bit of a wild day, I think. Kind of nice. Okay, we are going to be talking today, as I mentioned, about self-sabotage, and I want to share with you the story about how this came about and why I got such a bee in my bonnet this week about it. I've been on numerous radio stations around the country, actually pre-recording last week, and then having the on live interviews again this week. I think I did about 20, around Australia this week. And it was all about the rise of what I call the wise woman entrepreneur. So predominantly women over 50. There are women, women in their late 40s and into their 50s. And of course, then we have another group who are women over the age of 60. So, this is a fabulous time for women to be truly stepping up into who they are and stepping into business. But there was a couple of times where I was asked two questions. I want to get this right too. So there was one question was, where do women over the age of 50 go to find their confidence, start a business? And then the second question was, well, where do they get the ideas about how to starting a business? And I thought, you know what? They wouldn't be asking men that question. Why is it that we're asking women this question? And I kind of got a bee in my bonnet. And, I realized that women are having to overcome not only sexism, but we're also having to overcome ageism. So after I kind of ranted and raved and did a few big long walks and, it's not fair and tapping and when's things going to change. And then I sort of suddenly realized, you know what? It's only when we decide to make the change, when we create the movement, that the questions will change. They will be questions along the lines of, wow, how did she do it? How did this person do it? Or it will become just the norm. And in thinking about this, you realize that this is the first generation really where this has happened, where women over the age of 50 are really ramping up to start all over again. It comes obviously from, our kids are older. I know in our circumstance, our three kids have all left home and they're living overseas. So we have more emotional energy, as I like to say. There's more space in our brains to think about things we're passionate about instead of worrying about, who's got what sports uniform to wear what day or, another 14-year-old, angst or drama or rolling of the eyes. So it's like that we change. Also, I believe it's about our bodies changing. So as we go through kind of menopause and the hormonal change, that we become quite introspective about who we are and what's our legacy going to be, and have I truly lived my dream throughout my life? Many of us put our lives on hold, having children and paying mortgages and all that stuff. And so there were times when we had to just kind of take jobs, careers that helped pay that mortgage and the school fees. And so now it's like, well, I've got a bit more time and I've got a bit more space to think, but there's some hurdles to overcome to get you there, because to start in your own business, if that's what you want, or to step up and step into that next level in your career or any description, comes with vulnerability. To start your own business, number one, there's some vulnerability about income. I'll share my story in a minute. But also what I found is that women who become more successful as they move up the ladder actually become more vulnerable, not less, because the stakes get higher. I often tell the story about Julia Gillard. When she was Deputy Prime Minister, she was very popular. And the minute she became Prime Minister, wow, she was just attacked from all sides about anything, from the clothes she wore to the size of her bottom to whatever. It was just, game on for everybody. So as women, we watch that and think, oh, I don't know if I want to put myself in that position. And so there's a tendency to feel a little bit more vulnerable. Now, my story is that I've had numerous careers over the years. I began, like everybody else, came out of school, didn't quite know what I wanted. I didn't do well in school, hated it with a passion. I then went into did office jobs, which I was very good at. Wasn't something I loved, but I was very good at, all the office jobs that I did. And I went on to become, personal assistant to some pretty powerful people. Then I had a major change when I moved to Canada and met Jerry and became a fitness instructor. And that was a career I absolutely loved, passionate about, and did it for 15 years. And had a TV show and all sorts of things. Wrote books, did seminars, trained aerobic instructors. And continued that career when the kids were little. But when our son was diagnosed with autism back in 1997, we had to make a decision. I needed to be home, and that career I had me out of home in the times when I needed to be there, early mornings, late nights. And so I chose to pull back on my career and become a full-time carer for our son, which in hindsight was the best thing that we did. But it took a long time for me to gear up again. I then took a fabulous position as the Director of Community Relations and Marketing for a private school, and which I loved for 10 years, absolutely loved it. And went on to present at numerous international marketing conferences, in educational marketing conferences, and present to heads of schools about school marketing. But then when I turned 54, had a major health issue, was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. I was the person, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, who lived the Imposter Syndrome. And I'm going to share with you, I only found out this later when I began researching much later about the Imposter Syndrome, why I experienced it, but I absolutely burnt myself out. I used to work 10, 12 hours a day, didn't even think about it. At the same time, raising 3 kids, a young man with autism. We also had a homestay girl that came and lived with us for 4 years. So it was, I took this kind of whole thing on, and eventually it all fell in a heap at 54, and I needed to make some decisions about my health. And it was that stage that I decided, what did I want to do for the rest of my life? What was it I truly wanted to do? How did I want the next stage, the next act of my life to look like? So I quit my job. And that was a big deal, because it was well paid, great superannuation, terrific holiday pay and sick pay. So it was a scary move. And Jerry and I talked about it quite at length. And he said to me, look, if you don't do this now, you'll never do it. So at 54, I left, and I had written a book about our journey raising a young man living with autism, and serendipity, synchronicity, all that stuff. The universe stepped in. We launched that book in April 2010, not long after I left my job, and it happened to be Autism Awareness Month. I didn't know, so disconnected I was. I didn't know it was, and that ended up with a trajectory. We ended up on national TV. And I have to tell you, when I look back on that now, that I really struggled with that, to be brutally honest. I struggled with all of a sudden being the voice of families living with autism, the national media attention. I went into an absolute hole. I'm being very honest with you. I really, really struggled, and I pulled way back. I look back on those times. Remember, Jerry and I have an argument. We're getting so many book orders, and I just lost it one day because we didn't have our systems in place. And when I look back on that now, I recognized again it was self-sabotage, and I was suffering from the imposter syndrome, which I'm going to share with you in a minute what they are. Then after that, I got into EFT tapping, and again another career began. And so at the age of 59, I launched a new career, wrote a new book, and now, 2 or 3 years later, I'm reinventing myself again as an international speaker and trainer, and we're doing a lot more media. I have the knowledge now this time, and I've cleared all my staff in order to step up and do the whole media stuff. But what I'm really, really passionate about and is supporting women over the age of 50 to step into their own power. I've made all the mistakes along the way, and I know what happened when I was all of a sudden taken from a corporate environment into running my own business and having to go through all the limiting beliefs, the sabotage stories I was telling myself, the imposter syndrome, which I'll share with you. And it's only now that I understand, and I can look back on the last, 8, 9 years now, that I can see exactly what I went through. And I thought it was because I was a failure at this. And good morning, Kathy. I thought I was a failure. And now I realize what I was going through. I want to share all that with you, what I learned, what I experienced. And now I am so passionate working with women who are over the age of 50, what I'd rather call the wise woman entrepreneur. But let's look at some statistics, some really interesting statistics. So over the past 20 years, there's been a 46% increase in the number of business. Did I say 40 years? No, 20 years. The last 20 years, there's been a 46% increase in the number of women business owners. 44% of those women are aged between the ages of 40 and 54, and 28% of women business owners are aged 55 or more. Now, those stats are now increasing because I've read statistics from the UK and the US saying that women over the age of 55 are now a more formidable entrepreneur, that they're starting to see women really beginning to step up. And the issue is that marketers have got it wrong. So if you're a woman over the age of 50 right now and in business, you are in a perfect position because suddenly marketers are beginning to see that this is an age group that has got a lot of power, So you're in a perfect position, absolutely perfect position. If you're in this age group and that you're in business now, we are going to get stronger and we are going to get more popular. And what's more, there's more of us women. There's more of us coming through. So what I wanted to look at today is the self-sabotage and why it shows up in sneaky ways. So, and the places we need to release the self-sabotage. In my experience, it's fear of speaking up. Hi, Jackie. Lovely to see you here. Fear of speaking up or speaking out, to be able to speak our truth with confidence, and where that comes from. Feelings of being a show-off. Many of us grew up in an era where the only times the words special and you were used in the same sentence began with what makes you think you're so special. Whereas today we tell our kids they're special. We tell our kids that they can dream big. Many of us didn't have that when we were growing up. It wasn't that era. I don't know about you, but I grew up in kind of the 60s, and in our family, it was very much, keep you down a peg or two. Don't think you're so special. Work hard. Nobody likes to show off, as I said. It was very much that era of stepping back and not being able to speak my truth. I heard a story the other day, and I want to share this with you. It was a woman called Eleanor Beaton, and she was telling a story about, in school, how oftentimes women little girls, ask permission to speak, whereas boys didn't do it so often. If a teacher asked a question, girls would put their hands up to ask the question, but the boys would just blurt it out, which is a generalization, as she said. But there's more of us that tend to, as women, wait to be asked to speak or to be acknowledged. The sabotage shows up as procrastination and inertia. We'll procrastinate, which really is masking fear of success or fear of failure, and a belief that our ideas have to be perfect before we take our idea being seen and not heard. Absolutely, Louise. Absolutely. We grew up with that a lot, really, didn't we? It's like children should be seen and not heard. We don't do that anymore, and younger women don't understand that. I was at this International Women's Day event on Thursday, and a group of terrific 12-year-olds, oh my God, so well spoken, got up and spoke at this event with 200 women. They've won an award for an app they've developed, and they won the Australian award, and they're heading off to the US to participate in a competition. And they spoke so well about who they are and what they want, and this is just the first app, and they're going to go on to develop more, and they love, girls in tech. And I'm just flabbergasted thinking, wow, I wonder if I had that confidence when I was 12. Well, I probably did, but, taken away from me. And I grew up with the nuns too. Ooh, I don't go there. So there's a thing that we have to be perfect. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And also the biggest one, I think, for many of us is our body and our weight, where we spend so much time worried about what we look like and weight and all that other stuff. And, seems to be as we get older and the more crow's feet we get, the more quiet we become, more invisible we become. Well, we're going to change that. All right. So one of the keys is that the moment we stop being who other people want us to be is the moment we step into our own power. And in order to do that is to look at our self-sabotage stories we're telling ourselves. Number one is believing in our past stories. Exactly what Louise just said. That belief of being seen and not heard. That belief that, we're not good enough. That belief that somebody else is always better than us. What's your past story? That's the thing that holds you back. That's why I love EFT, by the way, as you know, because that's how we clear those past stories that still sit deeply in our amygdala and come up when we're feeling vulnerable. We sabotage ourselves sometimes by controlling our own failure, which I thought was a really interesting aspect of this. Do you know, when I look back at that time when David's gift was taking off, it was a lot easier to lose the plot and blame everybody else for the fact we didn't have our systems set up than step up and acknowledge that I was terrified of failing at this, because I had been on national TV and in national media, that if I failed speaking, if I failed at this nationally, holy cow, like everybody was going to know about it. So it was a lot easier to control my own failure. That's where the sabotage said, I can't cope with this. I don't think I really want to do this, blah, 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 blah. It's everybody else's fault, yada, yada, yada. Because when I was on the Today Show, a dear friend of mine, bless his cotton socks, while everybody else is saying, wow, fantastic, you're on national TV, you're interviewed by Lisa Wilkinson, he messaged me and said, did you notice the number of ums you said? And I think I said absolutely 25 times or something. He counted. And of course, thank you for telling me that. And thank you for reinforcing my own belief in the fact that I'm, a fraud and I shouldn't be here. It was just, so that people's judgment, a lot easier to control my own failure and blame other people. Familiarity creates acceptance. So, if you've failed in the past or you've stepped back from success in the past, it's like, okay, well, I've always done that. That's who I am. That's just me. So familiarity creates acceptance. We also hang around or attract other people who say, oh, well, you tried. You gave it a go. For my American and Canadian friends who are listening, that means, you tried and you didn't do so good, so what? But, that gives us an out in our sabotage story. Oh, well, I tried. Whatever. Number 4 is creating drama from boredom. You know, we can get to a stage where things are going along swimmingly. And by the way, if you recognize any of this, please just comment. Let me know if yes, this is me. Creating drama from boredom. You know, it's boring. I don't know where to go next. I'm going to create a bit of drama around this, create a bit of sabotage around this, and then I got a way to, you know, control this, feel better. Number 5 is honoring family vows and getting back to, you know, what Louise said before about being seen and not heard. What are the vows in your family? It's not right for women to speak up. Men are at the head of the table. You know, a lot of our money vows are tied up in family. You know, it's not right for me to make more money than my parents made. We just come from that type of family, which is a great one. I know in my family, I've shared this before, but in my family, my second generation, so my great-grandparents and grandparents, my great-grandparents were entrepreneurs, had quite a bit of money. My great-grandfather on my mother's side was a gambler, used to go to gamble with the Aga Khan in Monte Carlo. And my great-grandfather on my father's side was an entrepreneur and a great landholder, but they lost everything in the war years. And so in my family, my parents were very much sort of coming from both sides, growing up quite poor. Very much into good education, good job, you know, buy a house, you know, mortgage, you know, all that stuff. And so, yeah, Jackie, absolutely being seen, not heard. So I grew up in a family that was very much about safety, which is great. My dad, you know, he's terrific. He's, you know, in his late 80s now and still a self-funded retiree. He retired very early. So I grew up in that very safe financial family, and so to step out to be an entrepreneur is kind of dishonoring the family vows. You know, what if I fail? Ugh, you know, how bad will that be? And of course, number 6, the imposter syndrome, which we're going to talk about right now. So if you have any questions, pop them in, and or any comments about what we're going through or what we're talking about, let me know. But I want to get on now to the imposter syndrome. Let's see if you recognize any of these. All right, imposter syndrome. Number 1, the perfectionist. Everything has to be perfect before I can start everything. The perfectionist is the person that just holds himself back all the time because nothing's ever perfect enough. And yet I believe we need to become, as I was once dubbed, queens of imperfect action, because we learn along the way. It's about jumping in boots and all and doing this. But we can sabotage ourselves by feeling that things, events, times, people aren't perfect enough around us. And also, we have to be perfect. You know, I need to lose an ass kilos, or I haven't got the right clothes, or, you know, I want to make sure everything's just perfect. Or, you know, I have to be perfect, especially in this era of video. You know, if you're in business and you want to start doing video, you might start, oh, well, not perfect enough, and how can I put myself out there? Number 2, Superwoman. Now, when I went back, and I was mentioned before, in the job that I had, yeah, absolutely, Anne-Marie. Perfection is great procrastination technique. It sure is. Sure is. And that held me back for a long time. I can't write this book. It's not perfect yet, you know. And even when I wrote the book, David's Gift, my first book I wrote, and after all the and yada, 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 and I got the book. I was terrified when I opened up that box of books that arrived. And open up page 26, there was an error. I think 2 commas or 2 ands or something. One after that, I was like, oh my God, the book's not perfect enough. Superwoman. So this is me. See if you can identify yourself. Superwoman, I'm the one that can do everything. Yeah, Jackie, perfect. Yeah. I'm the one that can do it all. Great multitasker. When I was in my corporate job, so I said before, I would work, 10, 12 hours a day. Hey, Sandy. I would work 10, 12 hours a day. I could do everything. I prided myself on having multiple tasks that I could, sort out. In fact, the day that I walked out of my job, not long after I was diagnosed before I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, I'd walked into the work that morning and there was already 10 people outside my office. And that was my job, was kind of community relations. So, people come and ask me questions. And I prided myself in saying, okay, you need to go see so-and-so, or yes, I can handle that, or give that to me and I'll morning, sweetheart. And I'll handle it for you. I was the great superwoman. Plus I'd come home, and we eventually got a clean lady, but at that time I was like, no, she doesn't do a good enough job, and I'd still be cleaning. And, I had to look good. I still had to go and, for my 1 hour runs every day and doing the weights. And in the end, superwoman, in the end, it was a detriment to me. It is impossible for you to do everything. But that's part of the imposter syndrome, is that what we do is that we set up that I have to do everything. It's all, it's a way of validating who we are, instead of saying, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't fit in with my time, or I need to honor my energy and my body and my family. We take it on board. So yes, certainly I can do that. No problem. Give me more. I can do everything for everybody. Absolutely. I can do everything for everybody. The next one, number 3, is the reluctant genius. And this is my daughter. And you may be able to see this in yourself or in your children, your daughter. The reluctant genius is the one that everybody says is really good at things. And they'll go, oh, you're so good at this. You're just a natural. But the reluctant genius goes, no, I've got to work really hard at this. I've got to be better than everybody else. And my daughter is this, and she's a producer now with CBC in Canada. She puts in such long hours, did before we tapped on this, such long hours. She was the one that everything had to be absolutely perfect. And even though people would say to her, you're so good at this, come naturally, she worked so hard, and she'd keep saying, I'm not good. I actually work really hard at this. And she put a lot of pressure on herself. That held her back from taking up opportunities. Your children, it stops them taking up opportunities, because they go, no, I'm not that good. The resume, that resume, they're asking for this and this and this, and I haven't done this and this and this. I've done this, this and this. I'll have to wait till I do this, this and this before I can even apply for that job. So the reluctant genius holds themselves back until they can sort of dot all the I's and cross all the T's. The fourth one is the rugged individualist, and this fits in a little bit with the superwoman syndrome. They're like, nope, I am not handing over anything to anybody else. I'm in control. If I hand this over, people are going to think it's a sign of weakness. So it's like I take everything on board. And they're often people who men tend to fall into this bracket more so than women. They're very much, oftentimes they're CEOs of corporations, and they'll take on the responsibility of the organization by themselves. They see handing over information to others as being a sign of weakness. And the last one is the expert. And the expert hates being called an expert, absolutely hates it. They will continue to do course after course after course. You often see them in universities. They'll have done a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and a PhD and then another master's. And they need to know everything, when they just don't like being called an expert, because they feel that there's a chink deep inside. So those are the aspects of self-sabotage. Now, these are the issues that I believe are holding women back, all of us back, from stepping up into our own power. If we are going to change this, if we are going to make a difference, it's going to come from us. As simple as that. It's going to come from us. If you have any of these things, I'm holding, I've got some space on my diary again for 30-minute discovery sessions with me. If you want to, did it go? Yeah, there we go. To have a chat about this. See if we can find this self-sabotage story in you so you can step up into your own brilliance. Let me help you. I'd love to. I've got a couple of spots left. Because here's the deal. When I went through that stage, I'm not sure which one of those is me. Sandy? I'd say superwoman. Knowing you, I'd say superwoman, where you take on so much, you do so much for others, and sometimes at the detriment. Does that kind of ring true? Because that's where I think you and I have a great affinity that we're a bit alike, like that. So just sit with that. Do you think that's the answer? The whole idea of understanding your sabotage stories is that when you can release them, they no longer become part of your story. They become a history. Yeah, that's right. I think for many of us, for us women over this age, we are the superwoman. We grew up in that time when, we were really struggling against the status quo. I got asked this question on one of the interviews I did. I think it was with 96.5 this week. And he asked me, why is this happening? He's asking, why is this happening now? And I said, I'm part of what we call the trailing edge baby boomer. And we're the ones born towards the end of the baby boom. And I was too young for the kind of hippie movement, the flower power and Woodstock and all that. I was way too young for any of that. And then I was way too young for the feminist movement of the burning the bras in the 70s. I was way too young for that. But those women created a path for me to follow. So I kind of followed that. Now what I'm seeing is women our age are starting to see women like Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, who's 60, Liz Hayes, who's 60 Minutes reported Liz Hayes, who's also 60. Who else is there? Who was the head of Westpac? Her name gone. Who was also 60. Lisa Wilkinson, who is 59. We've got actresses such as Jane Fonda, who's 80, for goodness sake. Looks amazing. I'd like to know who a plastic surgeon is because she looks fantastic. Mary Steenburgen, who's in her 70s. Candice Bergen, who's in her 70s. Women who now are kind of, trailblazing this path, and we're coming through now going, wow, these women are doing it. I can do it too. But what's happening is we are then recreating the path for our daughters coming behind us. That's why, to me, it is so important we clear this, whatever our self-sabotage is, because we're creating the path for our children. And I think I mentioned this. I'm just going to have a sip of tea for a minute. I've been talking too much. Please feel free to make comments. My 60th birthday a couple of years ago, my daughter got up and made a speech. The only daughter we had left in Australia who was happened to be at the party. Got up and made a speech, and she said, what is so inspiring about my parents is that they just don't tell me I can follow my dreams. They do it every day. And she said, that inspires me daily to know whenever I'm struggling that my mother has reinvented herself and she is living her dream. Now, while she's saying this, I'm thinking in my head, oh, thank God that time she didn't see me, in tears coming home from yet another speaking engagement where 2 people showed up, driving home in the pouring rain. Or the times I'm thinking, I could make more money packing shelves at Woolworths right now than what I'm doing now. Thank God she didn't see any of that. But what she saw was me continuing to persist in breaking down the barriers and, trying things, working things until I felt that this was what I wanted to do. And even now she says to me, Mum, I just admire you so much, and you make it okay for me to fail. You make it okay for me to do what I love to do. And to me, that's the most important thing. That's, to me, is the most important thing, is the legacy we're leaving for our daughters and our sons, but for our daughters most of all. So, when we get tied up on our self-sabotage stories, we're almost giving our daughters permission to have their own. And yeah, you can be too, Louise. And when we clear it, we're not just telling them they can do anything, we're showing them. And to me, that's so much more important. So if you're ready and you want to change this, if you're ready to, I'm just going to pop that link back in. Oh, where am I? I'm going to pop that link back in. If you're ready to make a change and you think, you know, something is really holding me back, I got to release this. I finally got to let this go. Book in for a strategy session with me, and let's clear this, because this is the way we're carving the path for our kids. But also, you know, I view my life now as I have 30 more years that I want to be doing what I love to do. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm strong. I have access like everybody else, and I'm healthy, fit, and strong. Yeah, exactly, Louise. When you get it right for our daughters, oh my God. But we have to show the way. And that's the thing. I'm going to go back to this in a minute. But this is the thing. When there's interviewers, and I'll put interviewers because it wasn't just one interviewer, but it was a couple of them, asking me this question about women finding their confidence. And I started to get, you know, facing ageism. I thought the only way we can change this is change it ourselves. We have to be the ones to step up and do it. We have to show them to change it by showing people the way to do it. So unless we change it within ourselves, our kids they don't listen to us. Not really. They're watching us. They don't listen to what we say. So, you know, when we get up and we get fit and strong and healthy, when we eat well and we work out and we, you know, meditate and we tap, you can't tell your children to do that, but they see you doing it. And then it kind of goes in, you know, a little sideline story about that. My youngest daughter, who was a terrible eater. Oh my God, she was awful, awful, awful. You know, she just wouldn't eat anything. She was terrible. Is now a vegetarian and only eats organic food, 24, heaven help us. Because that's what she grew up with. Even though she went off the beaten path for a while, that's what she grew up with. So they're not watching. They're not listening. They're watching. So I have loved having you on today, sharing my passion. And I want to share one more thing about this. I want to put this up, Sandy. This is great. Actions speak louder than words, Kathy. Absolutely. But I want to read this, great, Sandy. No one showed me this. No one told me when I was young. All I want for my children is to believe in themselves. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Absolutely, Sandy. I didn't know this. I got to share this with you. I went back to my 30th school reunion a little while ago, and I went, you know, I walked around the block 3 times before I actually could go in the door. I didn't have a very good experience at school. But the number of women that were there was a couple that were lawyers and doctors. And I thought, who told you could be that? Who told you? No one told me I could do that. It was quite, and yet we tell our kids they can. That's the difference. And actions do speak louder than words, Kathy. You're absolutely right. I wanted to just share this, and I want to share with you. You should write a book, Sandy. Oh, you know that I promote that. I'll be on your case. Then you have to let go of everything else you do. I want to show you with you why I believe this is the time of the wise woman entrepreneur. We bring wisdom, intuition, clear thinking, and experience to the often chaotic, ever-changing world of business. It is true at the moment, there is so much change happening. You cannot stand still. We're getting our website redone at the moment, and it's being done by a wonderful woman in Scotland who's just been awarded one of the most influential women in the Scottish Business Award. She won last night. She's gorgeous, my friend Finn. And I said to her, oh, gosh, how old? She said, when did you last get your website done? I said, 4 years ago. She said, you should be upgrading every 12 months to 18 months on a website. That's incredible. Change is happening so fast, and change in business is happening. But we bring wisdom to that. We bring clarity to that and clear thinking. We are expert multitaskers, of course. You know, we've had to balance kids and budgets and how we're going to make, you know, mincemeat last 3 meals. We're expert multitaskers and budgeters. We're able to make critical decisions, but we place our emphasis on the values of loyalty, truth, resilience, and determination. And I'm going to add courage. We place a lot of value on those. We're intelligent, we're wise, and we're capable. Those are the things we bring, the skills we bring. And our intuition is finely tuned. We have great intuition. But it's the self-sabotage that holds us back. That's the thing that holds us back. So I would really love to have some time with you to help clear any self-sabotage so you can step into your own power, your own wise wisdom to build your business or take that step in your career to what you want to achieve. This is actually your time. You've done the hard yards. So click on that link and book a strategy session with me. I've only got a few over the next little while because of speaking engagements that are building up, which is exciting, and media stuff. So I'd love to help you do that. So if you, again, I'm just going to pop that link in again, just in case it gets lost. And let me know how you go. Anne-Marie, perfectionist, great procrastinator, absolutely. I'm just going to go through some of these again. Were there any others that kind of aligned with you on that? Kathy, yeah, action speak louder one. I love that quote, Sandy. Louise, yeah, get it right for our kids. Oh God, it's so good. You know, my kids are, my eldest is 32, only 33. Fancy having a 33-year-old son. Holy cow. I still think I'm 35. And my middle daughter's 30 and my youngest is 24. And what I'm seeing now with them is the work, the inner work that I've done on myself over these last, particularly 4 or 5 years, manifesting in the relationship I have with them, the things they're telling me, the conversations we have. And it was brought home to me just recently with a friend of my daughter's came and stayed with us. Lovely girl, just like my daughter. They're best friends back home in Canada, so back home where they live. And she's traveling and her mother is not very supportive. And to see the pain in her eyes, because she really wants her mother's support and it's not there. And I was so grateful for the work that I've done myself over this last period of time on myself to develop this fabulous relationship with my adult children. So that's what this is all about. Let me support you to help you be the wise woman entrepreneur, the brand new demographic. We're stepping right into this. This is powerful, powerful stuff. And let's change this. Let's change ageism. Let's change sexism. But we need to change it by us doing it. We need to change by us being the leaders, the role models, the ones out in front, the ones creating the businesses, living our true purpose and living our passion. So with that, I'd love to spend some time with you, but thank you for being on today. Any questions? Yep, I have the best conversation with my kids. Not perfect, but good. Yes. And Sandy, you know, part of it, you're also right in the middle. You've got little ones right on this end and a big one right on that end. And Evan's just 21, isn't he, I think? Is Evan 21? Yeah, it's watching that wonderful time and change. I just like where they are right now. And, you know, it's great. It's really cool to get the feedback. I tend to do a lot more listening, not talking now with them. So have a wonderful day, everybody. I hope you are, wherever you are, as I said, we've got a wild and woolly day here on the Gold Coast. We're getting lots of rain. Certainly to our friends in northern Queensland, we are thinking of you at the moment. 23rd year this year. Oh, no. Yep. It gets there. Ooh, 18 to 20. You know, whatever is a bit typical. After that, it's cool. It's really cool. Yeah, so our friends in North Queensland, I hope you're coping okay with, and we're thinking of you at this time of all these floods. Let's hope this cyclone doesn't eventuate. But yeah, we have a friend of ours staying with us from Canada, or she's coming on Tuesday. Terrible weather. She's left snow in Saskatchewan to arrive here to spend time on the beach, and she's been here since last week. It's done nothing but rain, but anyway, at least it's not cold. Have an awesome day. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Let me know if I can help you. Book in for that chat, and I will talk soon. I'll see you on the page. I'm doing lots more Facebook Lives on this in the next period of time. It's something I'm going to go be in my bonnet. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye for now.